Lockbomb Show.
There was once a man who lived in two worlds. He would travel between them often, bringing news from one world to the other. But one day a dark cloud began forming over the worlds, and the portal between the two planes began to close. The dark cloud was named Work, and it was a real being. However, the man finished the dark cloud's migration project, and the portal was open once again. The sun came out, the birds chirped, and the man closed the drapes, put his headphones on, and turned on his Xbox One. How do I know all this, you ask? Well, because I am that man. Much better. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. So it's been a while since I made a video, but I really wanted to make one about Legend of Zelda. My daughter and I have been playing through the Ocarina of Time on the Wii adaptation of it. And to me, it's just one of the greatest games that's ever been made on any console. And it's not just me. If you go and you do a Google search, what are the top 100 games of all time, every list that I've seen has Legend of Zelda on it, and almost all of them have it top 10 or 20. Some are as low as the top 5. So it's just a really, really great game. And I wanted to do a video about why I think it's so great and why it has stood the test of time. And going back and playing through it, it's got everything that makes a good game. So you've got compelling characters, you've got this great plot that's kind of the driving force behind those characters. You've got good gameplay mechanics, and they were fantastic in 1998 when it first came out on the N64, and they still, to this day, they hold up the test of time. Some of it is a little, some of the camera angles are a little wanky, but that's just because, it was brand new technology at the time that hadn't really been mastered yet. So it's still really good mechanics, and the music itself is so epic. It has the best music of any video game on any console, in my opinion. And I've been playing Zelda games since I was a little kid, I play them so much that it feels like my life is starting to melt together with these Zelda games. It's a really surreal feeling. Oh man, where's the remote? Alright, so moving back to why I think this game is top 10 of all time. I'll start with great characters. So the characters, you've got Link, you've got Zelda, you've got Ganon as the protagonist, and you just have these iconic characters who have been around forever. And the Link in this game is like this lazy kid who's like a, good for nothing, and he's kind of been marginalized by his whole village, and they act all shocked when he gets a fairy for the first time, even though like everybody has a fairy, literally everyone in the village, and fairies are like as common as grass to their people, but they still act like, oh, Link, you got a fairy, like that's some great feat. Like, probably just because he's laying around all day, not doing anything. But, the only person who really gives him the time of day in the whole village is his forest bae, Saria. She teaches him this nice song, she's always smiling at him, she's got bright green hair. She's like one nose job away from being a perfect 10. But I know what you're thinking. Wait, doesn't Link fall in love with Zelda? Yes, he does. He's two-timing Zelda with some forest side piece. And Zelda just throws money at him. She gives him a better ocarina, the Ocarina of Time. The game's named after her, so you can't really mess with destiny, I guess. But yeah, besides having a love triangle, it's also got a great villain. Ganon or Ganondorf. It's got to be one of the coolest bad guys in all video games. He's sort of like the Voldemort of Zelda. He has kind of this permeating quality when his name is mentioned, and there's kind of like this, there's this this ominous feeling when you're about to fight him, or when you're trying to, go into battle with him or whatever. The game also does a great job of making you realize that you're a little weak punk who has no shot at taking down Ganon at your current state, but you also know that you're the hero of destiny. So you've got to get stronger. And so these characters lead right, they flow right into the plot. And it's worth noting that aside from these three characters, there's so many great humorous characters and some really epic bosses as well. And the boss fights are still great to this day. The plot is the thing of legend, where long ago there were three gods that created everything in the universe, and they stored their power into the Triforce or something like that. And it's three separate pieces: courage, wisdom, and power. And when you put them together, they make this unstoppable force that can, in a bad person's hands, they could destroy everything as we know it, and they'd be unstoppable. So the concept of destiny is heavily interwoven into this game, which has always kind of been fascinating to me. This idea that no matter what decisions you make, your ending has been predetermined is kind of fun to wonder about. In Ocarina, you're destined to be the hero of time, to pull the Master Sword and to save everyone from evil, which I guess means Ganondorf was destined to become evil. So throughout the game, you're unraveling more and more of these mysteries, and the clues force you into dungeons and temples, which to me is the absolute best part of the game. So in those temples, there's this great pattern that becomes established early on in the game, even with the first one, where you have all these kind of weird things that you see and you want to interact with them, but you can't. Like, you can't hit the A button, you can't really, like, you can target them and you know they're there, but you have no way of interfacing with them. And then lo and behold, you like look through the dungeon or the temple or whatnot, and you find an item, and that item kind of, it's like you have an epiphany every single temple that you're in, and you're able to use that item to defeat basically every small enemy in it. You normally use it for the boss fights too, and then you also use it to interact with your environment. So like every temple is kind of designed with this really cool concept of, it kind of shows you what you're lacking. It like shows you all of these different, targets for the hook shot, or these spiders that you can't reach, and then you get the slingshot. Or another good example is you're in the fish's stomach. I think his name is Juju or something, but you're in that big fish's stomach like Jonah, and you're trying to you are getting shocked by all these enemies. Like everything in the freaking stomach shocks you when you hit it, and you've got no way of really attacking them from a distance. And you also, there are these like weird artery things that are like clogging up the halls, and you can't, they're like blocking your way and you can't get past them, and if you try they shock you too. And so lo and behold, you find a boomerang, and that boomerang basically just helps you destroy everything. It kills everything for you without shocking you. It cuts those arteries like the dangling artery things. But yeah, like the whole game is like that, so it's really cool in that way. What also is cool is you have this you have the idea of time travel. Now, time travel itself can make the game really, really interesting. Like, it can make something really cool, like Back to the Future. Or if it's done poorly, it can make things suck, like the CW's The Flash. I mean, how confusing is that? So, if you don't know, you start the game off as a child, and you gather the 3 spiritual stones, you explore around Hyrule, and just when you're getting used to stuff and the way things are, bam! You pull the Master Sword and you get stuck in a time warp for 7 years. And then when you emerge, everything in the entire game is different. Everything as you know it has changed. And even a lot of the items that you had that you could use, you can't use anymore. Because let's face it, adults don't use slingshots and sticks and boomerangs. I mean, we use bows and arrows and hook shots. Duh. So you have to run around, get new items, and that quest takes you to the ends of the world. And you go to awesome settings like deserts, mountains, underwater temple. Oh gosh, what a horrible temple. Forests, and graveyards. I mean, how awesome is that? And while you're traveling to all of these places, you have great music to accompany you. And each song sets the mood for the area that you're at. So you can feel the tribal drums of the Fire Temple, and you feel the unease of the Shadow Temple, and the Antonio Banderas of the Desert Temple. I had never heard of Kondo Koji as a composer before, or after this game, frankly, but well done, Kondo, because I guess he's the one who wrote it. Now let's get on to what I don't like about it. I absolutely hate games that necessitate using a strategy guide to beat. It's one thing to unlock every item. It's one thing to use it to unlock every item or character or stage or find Easter eggs, but it's totally different when you literally can't progress through the game without looking something up. Like, what's the point of that? And again, I'm not talking about a puzzle that's hard to solve, because those are a staple of the Zelda games, as well as having to search for things. This game doesn't have much of those, thank God, but there are a couple spots that literally make no sense to me. And I'll tell you about them. So, the first spot that really kind of really made me mad was you pull the Master Sword out, and you turn into an adult, and then the game and your fairy, they tell you to go find Saria. So you go and find her, and then they start telling you go to the Forest Temple. Well, you know where the Forest Temple is, you can see the entrance of it, but it's like on this high pedestal, and it's like on a balcony, and you can't reach it. And so you look all around, and you spend I spent over an hour just like meandering around the area looking for something, and it was nowhere to be found, nothing to help me. I don't even know what I'm looking for. So then I look around and I don't, there's nothing anywhere. And so I finally end up caving and Google it, and it turns out that there's a claw shot that's in a separate town so would you believe you have to go to this separate town that has nothing to do with the Forest Temple? You have to go to the graveyard in that town. You have to pull a specific grave back, like dig it up basically. Then you have to jump in that grave, and then you have to race this ghoul for like 2 minutes, like through this weird labyrinth. And then after you do all that, then you get the claw shot, which is what allows you to gain entrance to the Forest Temple. But see, how the crap are you gonna know that? If this is your first time playing, you don't even know what a claw shot is. So how in the world are you supposed to know? Or hook shot, whatever it's called. I think it's claw shot, the shorter one. But anyway, how are you supposed to know that you're supposed to just randomly go to that section that, again, has nothing to do with the forest temple or the forest itself? It's not even near the forest. And then not only that, you're supposed to go to the graveyard and then the tomb and then race that stupid ghoul. Like, nobody tells you anything about it, so you're just screwed. Like, there's no way you could figure that out by yourself. And so, another good example is like trying to gain. So when you're still a kid, you've got the first 2 spiritual stones, then the game sends you to get the 3rd one, and so you follow the trail and it dead ends to this big fish. He's like just like a beached whale sort of, and you kind of have access to his face, but his mouth is closed, and so you can't really do anything. You can't climb on him, you slide off, you can't swim under him, there's nothing you can do. And so like I try asking around, and like everybody says the same stupid stuff. Nobody gives me any help. Like all the computer whatever they're called, mods or bots or whatever, they like don't respond, they don't give you any hints. So then after swimming around for an hour trying to figure this stupid thing out, I Google it, and it turns out you have to first get a bottle, which I didn't even have, and then you got to scoop up a fish, and then you have to take that fish to that bigger fish and drop the fish in front of him, and then he opens his mouth and sucks you and the fish up, and that's the temple. But nobody tells you that crap. Nobody says, oh, he likes fish, or any of that other stupid, like, it's just BS, this cryptic BS, and it's just grossly irresponsible. And I mean, lastly, the thing I don't really like about it, I'll just say water temple. If you don't know what I mean, yeah, I mean, that's it. If you don't know what I mean, just play it and you'll understand perfectly well. So, if it's a fixed environment, limited in size, like inside of a temple or a building, it's okay to stash something somewhere and make it hard to find. Temples are like that, dungeons are like that, that's what makes them appealing. But what's not okay is having an open world mysteries, where it's like, it could be anywhere in the entire game, and it could be anything. You don't even know what you're looking for. You have 0 hints to go on. You're just screwed. It's a cold case. You're not going to figure it out. And that irks me so bad about games. Like, you should never make games like that, where you have to have a strategy guide just to get through the main story. Like, it's crazy. So those are really the only 3 things I can think of that, even with that cryptic garbage, I would still put this at an all-time top 10 games I've ever played. It's that good. There's so much good that it far outweighs the negatives. And I mean, let's face it, you can just Google it. In today's time, you can just Google it and you don't have to pay any money, so it's not that big a deal, but it's just the principle of the matter. It's like one of my pet peeves. So, now, if you really want to play some steaming hot garbage, you should play Majora's Mask or Skyward Sword. Having to constantly reverse time in Majora's Mask, or having, just the awful game mechanics of Skyward Sword, they were unbearable. Like, those 2 will make you just want to cut yourself. But, if you want to play an epic adventure game that you'll remember always, it's a really kid-friendly game. There are some scary parts, but for the most part, it's really kid-friendly. Then you should play Ocarina of Time. Well, that's all I have for this week. It's good to be back, and thanks for watching.